Chokehold on the subway. The medical examiner's office now ruling it a homicide.
And there is growing outrage that the former Marine who was questioned has not been charged. CBS 2's Allie Bauman live at the train station in Soho tonight. Allie.
Maurice and Christine, the 24-year-old Marine veteran who put the victim in a chokehold on Monday, was questioned by police and released that same night. Even though the medical examiner has now determined it was the chokehold that killed him, we're told the Marine is not in police custody tonight, but the district attorney is investigating.
Justice for! Justice for!
A group gathered in anger Wednesday inside the East Houston and Lafayette subway station, where 30-year-old Jordan Neely was choked to death on the subway 2 days prior.
Our life was essentially taken away. Someone who's homeless, struggling with mental health.
One witness said Neely had been panhandling and shouting on the train, but the witness said it did not appear this man, who seemed to be suffering from some kind of mental disturbance, was seeking to assault anyone. The 24-year-old Marine can be seen holding Neely in a chokehold for nearly 3 minutes, while 2 other passengers helped to restrain his arms.
All 3 of those people who held him should be arrested. A proper investigation should be conducted. The man who choked him to death should be charged with murder.
According to the Marine Corps, the man who sources say put Neely in a chokehold is a decorated veteran Marine sergeant who separated from service 2 years ago. Neely was a subway busker and Michael Jackson impersonator with more than 40 prior arrests and an active warrant out for his arrest from a felony assault. Homeless advocates argue none of that justifies his death.
Again, it's horrible that something had to go to this extent, this tragic loss of life, to underscore that this approach of treating people as dangerous or as a threat just because they're in need has to stop.
A spokesman for District Attorney Alvin Bragg says the office will review the medical examiner's report, assess all available video and photo footage, identify and interview as many witnesses as possible, and obtain additional medical records.
Let's let the DA conducts his investigation with the law enforcement officials. To really interfere with that is not the right thing to do.
While there are surveillance cameras on some subway cars, we're told there were not any on this one. Governor Hochul called the incident deeply disturbing, and the Marine Corps denied to comment on the investigation. We're live in Soho. Allie Bauman, CBS 2 News. Allie, thank you.
Got conversations about life, got conversations about death, got conversations about building a nation, about gaining knowledge of self. Not here to deceive you, we'll make you a believer. Come build a nation with conversation, with prophecy and Atiba. Conversations between comrades. Welcome to another episode of Conversations Between Comrades. I'm your host, Brother Prophecy, and I know y'all looking saying, damn, he by himself. Our comrade, our good brother is not here with me. He got issues again, getting, with his phone situation. So he said he's working on that, trying to get that worked out, and hopefully he'll be back on the show soon, real soon. But the show must go on, and I'm still gonna hold it down. Unfortunately, I didn't have any guests prepared or anything for this particular week, so it's just me. I'm riding solo, so we're just gonna be chatting it up, talking about a couple of things. Y'all saw in the beginning that news clip. Unfortunately, it's happened again. Another brother murdered senselessly, unarmed black man killed, and we're gonna get into that as well as our topic. We're gonna talk about hurt people. A lot of people have been talking about that. A lot of people been saying that quote, hurt people. What does that mean? Why is that relevant to us? But like I said, I want to welcome you to Conversation Between Comrades. And if you're out there, hit that like button. Hit the like button. Share this, spread the word so we can continue to grow our audience and we can continue to have this conversation with more and more like-minded people, because we can get together, not only converse about some things, we can deal with some real solutions, and we can figure out how we can implement these solutions, because that's ultimately what it's about. It's about creating a better world, about taking control of our own community and doing something about the problem, and not simply just talking about the problems. That's what we're all about right here. Like I said, I'm by myself today, and hopefully, I'm I'm gonna try to hold it down. I'm gonna try to do my best. But you know, like I said, man, give us a like, drop a comment, let us know who you are. Share this video. Drop a name of an individual who might benefit from this type of conversation or might just enjoy conversing on these type of subjects. But you know, like I said, if you were here at the beginning of the show, I had showed a news clip because a brother by the name of Jordan Neely, I believe that's his name. This just recently happened this week, was murdered on the subway. So on the subway, apparently this is a homeless brother, a homeless man who was suffering from a mental health crisis. So he has mental health disease, mental health problems, and he was having a mental health crisis. And from my understanding, he was on the subway begging for food. He was begging for food. He was hollering, he was loud. But like I said, my understanding is he was begging for food in some type of way. This individual, which is an ex-Marine, got into some kind of confrontation, and what the video picks up is basically he's on the ground with his brother in a chokehold, a rear naked choke specifically. Now, I'm actually very qualified to talk about what happened in this video because I'm an ex-MMA trainer. I'm a Muay Thai Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, and I've taught these things. And that particular move that he had this brother in that ultimately killed him is one of the first moves I teach. I know it very well. I'm very good at it. I've applied it thousands of times, been put in it thousands of times, because every time I teach somebody, I tell you, okay, put it on me. You got to put it on me, and you have to do it correctly before we can go on to the next step. You know, and the first thing I do is I put it on them to let them know how it's supposed to feel. And when you put it on the proper way, it's really quick. You know, it would choke you out really, really quick. I like that, you know, like a split second, that's all. And they know, they'd be like, okay, yeah, if you would have held that a little longer, I was going to die. You know, so it's a very serious move. Is one of the reasons why most police departments have outlawed chokeholds, because they're just very dangerous, especially if you're struggling with someone, because you're cutting off the oxygen supply to the brain. And it's not like, you know, it's not like holding your breath. When you're in a chokehold, it's not like you're holding your breath. It's different. See, when you're holding your breath, your brain is still getting oxygen because you have oxygen in your blood system, in your blood supply. So you're still operating off of the oxygen that's in your system. But when you're in a chokehold, the chokehold cuts off the oxygen supply to your brain. So there's no more oxygen getting to your brain. So what happens pretty soon is you go unconscious. And if it doesn't stop, then you die. Very simple. Very simple. If you look at MMA, UFC, any kind of mixed martial arts, you see this stuff happening all the time. They get a chokehold and people don't want to tap, and next thing you know, they're asleep. And the referee got to be there quick. Be like, no, it's over. Because if they hold it for too long, they will die. Every time. No exceptions. Go to sleep, then you die. That's the order of operations. Unless you have some kind of medical condition where, you know, before you go to sleep, it throw you into cardiac arrest or something like that. You know, it shoots your blood pressure up. But long story short, it's a very, very dangerous move. And I think I'm gonna show a picture. They got a still. They should have a still shot of this is basically what happened. Now, the individual who applied this move on this brother, he's a Marine, or an ex-Marine at least. So if you're an ex-Marine, then you are trained in these type of techniques, and you should know how dangerous they are. Now, if you look at the video, and I don't know if I'm going to show the video or not, but this guy had this move. He applied this rear naked choke for over 3 minutes. He had him in this chokehold for over 3 minutes. And in fact, in the video, you heard a man saying, "Hey, man, you know, this guy's about to suffocate. This guy's about to suffocate. You got to be careful with that." And that's like the only reason why he stopped, because it was somebody else telling him, "Man, you about to kill this dude." By then, he was already dead. You know, you saw him being in the chokehold for a while, and then you see him trying to struggle because he know, hey, it's about to go down, and then you see him stop moving. And by the time they got up, he was dead. Now, what makes people outraged about this particular story is because police interviewed this guy and just let him go home. Interviewed this guy, let him go home. And that was it. So, you know, we will follow this story. We will see what develops. Usually how that goes, one of us gets killed. The individual who murdered us gets let go. They talk to us and then they let them go home, and the community is outraged. And attention is drawn to this story, and questions are raised like, hold on, why did you let this guy go? Why, why? And authorities are pressured into doing something. They're pressured into doing something about it. So, we'll see. We will see. But, like I said, this brother, Jordan Neely, was having a mental health crisis. And I kind of wanted to start there because it goes with what we're talking about today. Hurt people hurt people. And I'm gonna get to exactly, the connection between this video and what I'm talking about when it comes to hurt people because honestly, being that the team is not here today and I didn't have any guests, I had no idea what I really wanted to talk about. So I just threw a random topic and said, okay, we can talk about that. A lot of people say that quote. It's in a Kendrick Lamar song, and actually it's the name of a song. Hurt people hurt people. I don't know much about the song, but I just know it's a song called Hurt People Hurt People. But what are they talking about? Basically, it's saying people who have been hurt, people who have been traumatized, people who have been damaged tends to enter into a cycle of self-destruction or a cycle of hurt, a cycle of pain. Individuals who have been traumatized tend to pass that trauma down. A lot of times we talk about generational wealth, how people inherit generational wealth, how we should pass down generational wealth, and how we have been prevented from not only gaining generational wealth, but passing down generational wealth because, there's been a systematic effort to take away our land, to take away our independence, take away our ability to do for self. This is well documented. This is well documented within this system. You understanding the history of redlining. You understand the history of the prison industrial complex. You understand how our land has been taken away from us systematically. You understand how our independent communities have been bombed, have been attacked in many different ways, physically, politically, several different ways, with policy. So generational wealth has systematically been denied to our people for not just decades, but centuries. So we're not passing on generational wealth, but what we are passing on is generational trauma. We're passing down trauma from generation to generation to generation to generation. Now, it's something called epigenetics. This is a science. And basically, when you understand this science, what it tells us, what we learn from this is that trauma affects you on a cellular level. So when you experience a trauma, it can change the very, your very DNA. It can alter your DNA. Trauma is just that powerful, because you have to understand what is trauma. Trauma is something your brain interprets. A trauma is a threat to your existence, a threat to your life. And the first law of nature is self-preservation. A species, any type of species, is always going to do whatever is necessary in order to survive. So that's the strongest drive within human beings, the urge and the will to survive, to pass your genes on to the next generation and make sure that the next generation survives so the human species can continue on. So when you experience a trauma, your brain records that. And it basically says, okay, whatever this thing that just happened is a threat to your survival. So remember that. And it can ultimately alter your DNA, and it can be passed down to your children. Now, I don't know if you understand how important and how significant what I just said is. So let me repeat it. When you experience a trauma, your brain records that trauma, and it can alter your DNA to the point where you can pass this trauma down to your children. So why is that important to Black people in America, in the whole topic of hurt people hurt people? Because, think about it. We have been experiencing over 400-500 years of trauma in this country. Over 500 years of trauma. I mean, think of what our ancestors have endured. Imagine, you're a Black family, and you see this big, gigantic Black man pull in front of everybody. And they tie each of his arms to a horse. One horse to the left, one horse to the right. And they tied each of his legs to a horse. One horse to the left, one horse to the right. So you have this individual with all of his limbs tied to 4 horses, all going in different directions. And they put tar and feather on this brother, and they light them on fire, and they set the horses in different directions. These are things that happened to our ancestors that are documented. Documented. So you have this big, strong African male who is burned alive and being ripped apart by this European white man in this white power structure. And it's done in front of the entire community, the entire African community, the entire Black community, for the purpose of creating trauma. Because what they wanted to do is they wanted to instill in the Black community's mind, especially the Black woman, that do not defy this white man. Do not challenge the white man's authority. Because if you do, this is what will happen. And one thing they understood back then, hey, if you traumatize the mama, then they're going to teach the children. Like, look, don't mess with this white man. Don't mess with this white man. Now think of how that affected us on a cellular level with what we know about genetics today. Think about witnessing that, experiencing that. Not to mention after the Emancipation Proclamation, after we got free from this system of chattel slavery, not to mention the 100 years of lynching. Lynchings where our brothers, sisters, and children, men, women, and children were brutally lynched, burned alive, hung, castrated, murdered in the most public way. This was a festival for European people. It became a part of their culture, the murdering of Black people. They used to advertise it on the newspaper, in the newspaper. They took pictures of it, used them as postcards. You still see them floating around. We still see them. We still have them. It's a book called Without Sanctuary. Now, this book is just a collection of lynchings, pictures of, for the most part, Black men, women, and children being lynched, brutally lynched. It's a whole book of it. Most of the time I had the book. I don't have it anymore. I don't know where it is. I let somebody borrow it. But it's a very big book. So, just imagine if you was a part of this crowd right here. This gigantic crowd. And you saw, your uncle, your auntie, your son being murdered in this way. How does that affect you? There were situations where Black women were just raped, because under this system, Black women could be just raped with no repercussions. You could do nothing about it. And Black man, I know we're strong and but if you stood up against the rapist, lift a finger against this rapist, you would be killed. You would die. So we can play this macho thing. I would have. Yeah, maybe you would have, and then you would be dead, and that'll be the end of that. And the next individual that happened to, if they stand up, then they will be dead also. Until eventually you get the picture that, you know what, this is messed up, but what can I do? Think of this type of trauma. And think of the type of effect that would have on us on a cellular level. See, these things have been passed down from generation to generation to generation to generation. And through each period of our history, we've experienced high levels of drama. It's not like, okay, well, slavery was over, so the drama's over. Nope, the drama continued. After the period, 100 years of lynching was over and it died down. Well, you know what? A different form of drama, a different form of trauma. Even right now, today, we are still being traumatized. The people on that train station, on the subway station, they witnessed that Black man being choked to death. Witnessed trauma. Every night on the news, when you see Black people being murdered, even by the hands of other Black people, we are experiencing trauma. So, how can we deal with the trauma that we have experienced if we continue to be exposed to more trauma? If we're getting trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma, you can't do it. In order to heal from the trauma, you have to first separate yourself from the cause of the trauma. I'm gonna say what's up to everybody out there. I see a couple of more people checking in. And just remind you, man, hit that like button. Hit that like button. Give me a comment so I can, acknowledge you and we can have conversation between comrades, even though my other comrade is not here with me tonight. Y'all my comrades too, So we can start the conversation between us. But like I said, the topic that we're talking about today is hurt people hurt people. I'm talking about trauma and how we have been the victims of trauma. I see you, Brother John Ricky. You said peace, God. Okay. All right, so we're doing that. All right, peace, God. What's today's mathematics? And respond correctly. I'm just messing with you, man. I'm messing with you. It's an excellent topic. I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate it. You're right. It is an excellent topic. It is an excellent topic, a very important topic, and something we got to deal with on a concrete level because, a lot of people are quick to say, it's black on black crime, we're just killing each other. We're just killing each other while we're always killing each other. And, first of all, the whole concept of black on black crime, that's more of a political statement. That's more of a political tool that's used by particular people to avoid certain topics of systemic racism in this country. So, I don't want to do that. So I want to be clear. That ain't what we're doing. We're not trying to say, oh, well, this white dude on this subway just murdered this black man, and then they let him go home. But what about black on black crime? What about black on black violence? No, we're not doing that because we understand. We understand that both the so-called violence within our community, between each other, and the violence, the external violence from police, the police department, from white supremacist groups, from John Q. Citizen who attacks us viciously, all of that stems from the same place. It comes from the same place. It comes from being in a system for over 400 years, 500 years, that has dehumanized us. So we understand that. So I'm not, we're not going to play those, what about black on black violence crime? But at the same time, as we do this, it's the same time as we explain the reason and the cause for it. And we understand that it's not a political sidestep to avoid situations that the white power structure don't want to talk about. We're not ducking the issue of violence in our community. That's not what we do. See, that's what liberals do. So this is kind of the one of the issues that I have with this whole Democrat Republican thing. It's really the whole Democrat Republican ideological struggle is some white folks. That's for white folks to do. That's their thing. We shouldn't be involved in that, and we shouldn't get caught up in that. We should be focused on building up our communities, taking control of our communities, building institutions that will serve us and build us up. That's what we should be focused on, not what the Democrats doing, not what the Republicans are doing. Because when we get wrapped up into these games, what they're actually doing, especially because we're not politically organized collectively, because we're not politically organized. And most of us are not even politically aware. When we jump into that Democrat-Republican game, they simply use us as pawns in their game. Because when we jump into that political arena, we're for the Democrats, we're for the Republicans, whatever it is, we're playing checkers. We're playing checkers in a chess game. And when you play checkers in a chess game, you become a pawn in someone else's chess game. So, we gotta get out of that mindset, that type of thinking. And then, like I said, reason why I really just don't even care about that whole Democrat Republican thing, especially when it comes to this topic. Because Republicans, they quick to say, what about black on black violence? What about black on black crime? They're quick to talk about that. They jump on that in a second. They'll jump on it in a second, but not because they actually care about black on black violence or violence within our community. Not because they care about that, because they don't give a damn about that. They don't, they just want to use that as a way to stop talking about systemic racism, about police brutality, about white supremacy. They just don't want to talk about that. So whenever it's a police, killing or something or whatever, and we're mad and we're upset and we're vocalizing how we are displeased with what has happened, they quick to say, what about black on black violence? What about black on black crime? And then you have Democrats who just avoid it completely. They don't even talk about it. They don't even deal with it. Neither one of them really care about actually solving the problem, or they will just use that as a reason to talk about the need to get rid of guns within the community. When you talk about violence in our community, then that's, we got to get rid of all the guns. But they never deal with the trauma. They never deal with the topic of hurt people hurt people. They never do that. But speaking of the whole concept, the whole topic of gun violence, and when we have all of these mass shootings, and I'm gonna tie it into what happened to the brother Jordan Neely. When we see all these white people going to schools and shooting up schools and shooting up public places, one of the first things you hear talked about, one of the first talking points is, what was his mental health? He had an issue. He had mental health issues, mental health problems, mental health. And don't get me wrong, that is extremely important to bring out. It's an extremely important topic because mental health is very important. Trust me, it's very, very important. But have you noticed, whenever there is a shooting, a murder in the inner city, when a black person kills another black person, you never hear anything about mental health. Never. That's not even a defense for black people. See, white people can go shoot up, whatever. There's always a topic of discussion. What was his mental health? What was his mental health? But we don't have that option. We don't talk about our mental health. Why not? $1 million question. Why not? Like I said, being that we have suffered for over 400, 500 years of trauma in this country, being that we still suffer from trauma night after night after night after goddamn night, being that we talked about how drama and trauma can change you and affect you on the cellular level and be passed down from generation to generation. Then why? Explain to me why. This is not something that is talked about in our community when it comes to the violence that you see within our community. Why? You don't think that that these brothers out on the streets got some mental things going on with them? See, I've actually, been forced into a situation where I have had to learn more about mental health than I really even wanted to learn. It's affected, family members. So I had to learn how to deal with it. I learned signs. I got to learn with what's happening, with triggers and all of these type of things. And the thing about that, just like I told you, I'm trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So when I saw that chokehold that he was in, that's murder, dude. That's you held a chokehold for 3 minutes on a guy. It don't take but about 10 seconds to choke somebody out, especially if you put it on right. But, just like I said, I have experience with it. doing chokeholds and martial arts. So when I see that video, I might see something different than somebody who doesn't have that experience. Somebody who doesn't have that experience might just say, oh, they just holding them down. What happened? What happened? But I'm saying, okay, you know what? His arm is around his neck and it's up under the chin and it's clamping toward both of the carotid arteries. That's called a blood choke because it's got your jugular and it's preventing oxygen from coming to the brain. Very powerful choke. So, you know, like I said, you know, I see certain things that a lot of people might not see if you're not trained. But when you learn about mental health and the things that's going on and how people are triggered and how people are responding to trauma, when you look out into our community, you kind of look at it differently. You kind of understand why when something happened, individuals might just fly off the handle. A simple situation is blown up to a really big, traumatic, catastrophic issue that ends up with somebody dying, losing their life. You see that because you're like, oh, wait a minute. Individuals are being triggered. These individuals got some trauma that they're dealing with. And this situation triggered that trauma. It triggered the trauma response. So we got a little situation that's blown up to a big situation. And we just look at it like, oh, it's senseless. And it is senseless. You know, it's people dying for no reason whatsoever. But there's a root of that. There's a cause for that. A cause. It ain't just, oh, these people just ignorant. We just stupid. No, it's deeper than that. Goes back to what I said. Hurt people, hurt people. And the reason we're not analyzing that, why the government not coming down and say, okay, how can we analyze the trauma? What's the source of the trauma? Because they don't want to discuss the source of the trauma. Because then you got to deal with some concrete realities. You have to deal with some concrete realities about America and Black people, about this volatile relationship that America has had with Black people. And they're already very uncomfortable because that conversation about reparations is out there now. It's out there and it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. So we don't, you know, they don't like to talk about mental health issues with Black people, amongst Black people. That's why you see so many Black people who are having mental health crisis getting murdered by police officers, getting murdered by ex-Marines. So, you know, anyway, I see you, John Ricky Sparks. True, we are not dealing with the law of cause and effects. Excellent point. The violence transfers on various levels. Yeah, that's definitely you right on that, brother. Cause and effect. Cause and effect. Beautiful concept. We have to understand that if something happened, there's a reason why it happened. There's a cause. It didn't just abracadabra, hocus pocus, boom. What you're seeing in our community is a product of something. It is the product of trauma. It is the product of poverty. It is the product of miseducation. It is the product of a combination of injustices that has been put upon our community. Because you got to understand that all these things we suffer in our community is something that's not indigenous. It didn't just naturally occur. We were purposely herded into overcrowded cities, ghettos, project homes. Study the history of redlining. When individuals were pushed into communities that lacked the very resources needed for survival. This was purposely done. It was not an accident. It wasn't like Black people just say, you know what? We want to live right here where it's overcrowded, bunched up, there's no job, there's no sources of healthy food, there are food deserts, that we don't have any resources needed to survive, but we want all of us to live jam-packed right here in these communities. That's what we want to do. No, that's not how it worked. You had red lines, literally literal red lines on maps where banks and real estate agents and housing authorities said, okay, we cannot sell Black people these houses. They can't live in these communities. See these communities over here? This is where they have to live. But we don't want them living in here because, you know, we have to make sure that we maintain our power over them. That's an interesting point that a lot of times we don't focus on, we don't think about. But if you look all through history, the time that this European power structure has attacked us most viciously are times when we were in positions to gain our independence, or at least be independent from their power structure, from their authority. Black Wall Street, you had independent Black town. We had our own banks, our own hospitals, our own everything, completely self-sufficient. See, that should tell you something. It should be a light bulb going off right now. Self-sufficiency. When we approach self-sufficiency, this European, this white power structure viciously attacks us every time. That should tell you something. That's where the real power is. That's where your true liberation is. Being detached from a system that is created to exploit you. And that's what we're missing in this equation. That this system is designed to exploit you. Kind of like we're in the Matrix. You remember that movie? You know, free or not mine, Neo. But think about that movie. I mean, you had the robots, the machines. They were using the human beings for their energy. Human beings were just resources. They had them hooked up and they were draining the life and the energy out of the human beings so they could, you know, they could live, they could survive, they could do their thing. They use human beings as their energy source. That's the Matrix. So in essence, they had human beings living this fictitious world, this fictitious reality, this false reality. Things that weren't even real. Focus on things that was not real, things that didn't even exist, while they were exploiting these human beings for their natural resource. Same thing that happens in society today. Same thing that has happened and is still happening to us. They have us focused on the pie in the sky, waiting for Jesus to come down and save us, or waiting to look at the basketball game. LeBron, I think, LeBron and Steph Curry play tonight. I guess that's why not too many people on here. Got to see LeBron the King and Steph Curry. But they got us focused on these type of things. Meanwhile, they are exploiting us for our resources. And that's the whole game. That's what slavery was about, the exploitation of our ancestors for labor, our land, and all our resources, and our brilliance, and our genius. It's the name of the game, exploitation. A lot of times we get wrapped up in the hatred, the white supremacist ideology, the brutality, and all of that is terrible, but all of that is a byproduct of a system of exploitation. So if European people get smart and they say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna calm down on the oppression and the brutality and the racism. I'm gonna calm down on that right there. That's the intelligent thing. Because what they really want is the exploitation. So don't be fooled by the system. Just because you see a few police getting arrested, just because they act like everything is fair now, you're free. You have to examine this system for what it really is. You have to take a critical look at this system, a scientific approach. And you got to say, oh, wait, is this system still based on exploitation? Are we still being exploited? The answer is yes, definitely. Definitely. So if we answer yes to this question, then the true, narrative is things haven't really changed all that much. The underlying goals and objective of the system is still the same. But yeah, go to a couple of more of these comments. So yes, our cause should be to organize and build. And I have to agree with you on that, brother. We definitely, that should be our focus, organizing and building. And when we have to organize and build institutions, I can't stress that enough. Because see, a lot of times we look at things and we're like, man, what can we do? What can we do? Man, I'm gonna do a post. I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna speak truth to power. I'm gonna do a podcast, and like I'm doing a podcast, and they're cool. But to understand, this is just a part of it. The goal of the podcast that I do, and the other people on this broadcast do, is that's just one step of it. We're trying to spread information, but we're spreading information for the purpose of galvanizing and gaining support for actions. Because we can't just talk about it, y'all. We can't just talk about these things. Hurt people hurt people. So, okay, we understand that hurt people hurt people. We understand that we have been traumatized for over 400 years in this system. We understand that a lot of times the murder and the violence that you see is the result of trauma coming out. It's the result of the lack of resources within our community, the result of a miseducation system, the result of self-hate, the result of all of these things being piled up on our chest. It is so much that we're about to explode. We understand that. But we don't simply talk about them things just so we can talk about them. We talk about them for one purpose and one purpose only. That is so we can come up with solutions and we can implement these solutions and change our collective conditions here in this country. Point blank, period. We don't talk about stuff just so we can talk about it. I didn't create this podcast just so I can hear myself talk. No. I created it so hopefully so we can connect with like minds and we can pool our resources together and we can change our collective condition, because we've been sitting up here waiting on some white dude, whether it is the president of the United States or whether it's Jesus, hallelujah, to come down on the sky, from the sky, and save us. And just don't look like that is happening. So at some point in time, we got to pull up our bootstraps and get all boots to the ground and say, we got to save ourselves. And we, like I said, hurt people hurt people. We know hurt people hurt people. Well, if we're hurt and that's causing us to hurt other people, then we got to heal. We're going to have to heal. We have to collectively heal. But you cannot heal when you are still getting hurt, when you are still facing damage, when you're still being damaged, when you are still being traumatized. So that leads us to a very, very serious decision that we got to make. Like, are we going to continue to stay within a system that traumatizes us, that hurts us, that damages us? Or are we going to detach ourselves from this system so we can properly heal? I'm just like this. You can't heal within this system. You can't do it. At minimum, we have to create things called liberated zones. And what's a liberated zone? That's a community in which is controlled by the people. So you gotta, at minimum, we gotta start creating real Black communities. Communities where the economic system, where the political systems, where the media, where the agriculture, the grocery stores, the foods, the banks, and all of these institutions that govern our lives are controlled by us and created to benefit us. Because right now, under this system, the institutions are controlled by individuals who benefit from our exploitation, and the systems are created in order to further exploit us, and exploit us in a very efficient way, and in a way that if you're not politically aware, you don't even understand. You don't even see where it's coming from. You don't even know where the hurt is being coming. It's like a sniper is a mile away and they taking shots at you, boom. You don't even see this sniper, but you're getting hit. You're feeling the shots, you're feeling the wounds, taking the impact, but we don't see it. So we have to develop our own independent institutions so we can take control of our communities and take control of our situations. Because a lot of us have gotten to this stage, what they call learned helplessness. Be like, man, I just go home. I just go home, try to stay out of trouble, man. These young folk, they crazy, man. I just go home. I don't leave, just leave out to myself. I don't mess with nobody. I don't want nobody messing with me, you know what I'm saying? Because, it's like, you've been traumatized. But when you look at our community, I mean, a lot of the violence that we complain about, it's been committed by like 13, 14, 15-year-old children. Think about that. You got teenagers terrorizing your community. The children are terrorizing your community. Where they do that at? Right here. Well, I mean, that's mind-blowing. That we're collectively being terrorized by 14, 15-year-olds. We have to focus our efforts on gaining control over the institutions that build up our lives, that govern our lives. We have to do that. Do that our perish. And understand it's not, I'm not trying, let me slow down, because I'm not trying to paint this gloom or doom, it's type of scenario. Because what we're engaged in is what's called a protracted struggle. A protracted struggle, which means that we're trying to implement the solution, or the solution will be implemented over a long period of time. We didn't get into this situation overnight. The condition that we are in today took over 400, 500 years to progress to where it is now. The enemy that we're fighting now is not a recent enemy. It's not something that just emerged. It's not just the police didn't just start to kill us, to murder us. White supremacy didn't just start to attack our people. The government didn't just start to attack us. The food industry didn't just start to attack us. These things have been happening for centuries. The struggle that we are engaged in is the continuation of the struggle that Harriet Tubman was engaged in. The struggle that the brother from the Amistad was engaged in. The struggle that Queen Nzinga was engaged in. Our brothers and sisters on the continent battling this European power structure. And I know a lot of people love to say, Negroes in Africa slowed us out. And, you know, that's a really complicated. I'll probably have to come back and do, you know, a podcast on that particular topic, because it's a complex topic. But, you know, one thing that we don't really talk about is the war that was actually fought on the continent. The war that was fought against this European power structure, this white man, that prevented a lot of us from even going over there. We don't talk about that because they don't talk about it. We don't know about it. They don't teach you about your history, and they're making it illegal for us to learn about our history. But my whole point was, this struggle that we are engaged in right now, today, this very second, goes all the way back to the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade, maybe before. So it's nothing new. It's nothing new. We didn't get in this situation overnight, and we're not going to get ourselves out of this situation overnight. But we have to think from a long-term strategic strategy. And just right now, at this particular stage of our struggle, we should be focusing on institution building, creating our own schools, our own banks, our own grocery stores, our own hospitals, medical institutions, all of these things. We can do that. We have the power, we have the know-how, we have the resources to do that. We just have to have the will and the focus. That's what we need to do. In America, we Black people, we're African people, spend about $1 billion every year. Globally, it's trillions. Trillions. What you have to understand, all of these billions that we're spending is going, right now, it is working toward building up a nation that exploits you and oppresses you. So right now, we are already actively involved in nation building. We've always been involved in nation building. For the past 400 or 500 years, we have been involved in nation building. The problem is we're building a nation that exploits us, oppresses us, and brutalizes us. We got to flip that mind. We've got to flip that switch, change that mindset, and say, okay, now I want to build a nation that works for me. Build a nation that will benefit my children and my grandchildren and my grandchildren, great-grandchildren. That's what we have to do. That's the type of thinking. That's, you know, I get frustrated when people say, if you ain't go out and vote, then you shouldn't say a damn thing. Because the way that you affect change is going out and voting. And, you know, and I'm not here to piss on people who vote. No, that's just do your thing. But we have to understand that that's not going to solve our problem. That's not going to be the solution to our problem. No, it's not. It's not. Now, it's some things you can do. You know, I'm actually in this. Probably a lot of people will probably give me grief about this. I'm not the one to just say, "Oh, well, voting has nothing to do with voting." I mean, I think it's strategy and everything. I know that the way we do voting now, shit, nothing, because we just being a pawn in a political game of Democrats and Republicans. So you playing that game, you know, all that type of crap, you know. No. You know, I believe in being strategic. I believe in infiltration. I believe, you know, I'm not the one that says black man should never join the military. I don't believe that. I believe, you know, we should purposely send certain people to the military so they can learn the skills and the tactics of the United States Army. And they can bring that training back to our community. And we create our own independent military within the hood. So when the police come, we can be like, we got it. We're good. We're good. Or when one of these white supremacist terrorists come and terrorize our community, we ain't got to beg and protest and say, we shall overcome. And hopefully this white power structure will give us justice. We'd be like, oh, we're going to give you an opportunity to do the right thing. But if you don't do the right thing, you know, we got our own ways of getting justice. I want to say big ups to Madam President Samaat. Free land, comrade. Free land to you by any all means necessary. I will. Definitely. Says, as Malcolm has pointed out, we are maneuvered into the present condition. That's right. Like I said, you know, what you're seeing in our community is not something that is an accident. It's not something that just magically happened. It's something, you know, that we was maneuvered into, as you said. Let me see. Everyone's fight or flight response is different. Some people are trained to kill, while others are subject to oppression and submission. Great point about recline. As UGK said, we got that recline on our backs. Recline on our back. I guess I'm not familiar with UGK as well as I thought I was. UGK Underground Team Kings, Pimp C, and Boom B. But you know, you always throwing quotes. Oh, red line. All right, man. All right. I was gonna say, I was like, I know what you was talking about. Recline. Hey, dang. Red line. I got you now. Now it all makes sense. Thank you, brother. But yeah, definitely. But like I said, we've been talking about hurt people. People like saying it, you know, but it's more than just a saying, it's for real, you know, and we've been traumatized, you know, under this system for over 400 years, and trauma can be passed down from generation to generation to generation. So at some point in time, we have to begin the healing process. And when we have, you know, like I'm not painting a gloom and doom type of situation. And I don't want to do that. Matter of fact, let me switch that up. Because there are individuals who are creating our own institutions, who's putting in that work in nation building and taking responsibility of our own community. The individuals who are doing that. We work with them all the time. We just need more. We need support from the people. We need to get the same support that LeBron James and Steph Curry get. We need to be talking about how we can heal from our traumas, just like we talk about how many points Steph hit, or LeBron hit, or AD hits, or whoever. We need to get that same energy and that same focus and that same passion. We need to love our freedom. We need to love our liberation just like we love the Cowboys. And we need to hate our oppressor, hate our enemies, hate the system of white supremacy just as much as the people who hate the Cowboys hate the Cowboys. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Madam President, it says, and now we have to take full responsibility to get out of this situation and hold ourselves accountable, specifically once we are aware of who we are. Well said. Definitely. Definitely, definitely. Because that once you have an understanding of who you are, what has happened to you, then you now have the responsibility of changing that. There are a lot of things that's not in your control. A lot of things that happen to us, it is out of our control. A lot of things that happen to us is not our fault. Just not our fault. Man, this person did me wrong. They tried to get over. It's not our fault. It's a lot of pain that we have suffered. It's not our fault that was inflicted upon us. But the reality of it, it is 100% our responsibility to get ourselves up out of it. 100% our responsibility to respond correctly to it. The people who created the damage, who created the trauma, who created the pain, who created the exploitation, the oppression, the brutality, you can't wait for them to correct it. We can't depend on them to heal us. Because why would they? They benefit from our pain. They benefit from our exploitation. They benefit from our oppression. Why would they heal us from that? Why would they break the chain of dependency that we have on this system that has made them rich, powerful, and influential for so many centuries? Why would they break the chain? I mean, we see what's going on. We see, down in Florida, they passing laws that says, look, if you teach something that makes white people feel bad, then you can be put in jail. That's illegal. We're not going to have it. Like, really? Like, for real? Can't even teach our history? Well, really, we've never been able to teach our history. That's one of the first things that was stolen from us when we were placed into a system of chattel slavery. It took away our history, our culture, our name, our nationality, our belief system, our God concepts, all of these things. It was taken away from us. It was stripped away from us. And now that we begin to rediscover it and find the power within understanding who we are. Oh, hold up. Wait a minute. I don't think it should be legal for y'all to learn that. It's like, I remember why we stole it from you in the first place. Because when you had it, you was a threat to us. You was dangerous to us, so we had to get rid of it. We had to outlaw the drum because we didn't understand it. It was a method of communication between y'all, and we didn't understand it. So we just outlawed it. That's why we like them guitars today. Anyway. You see, healing is all about being very honest with ourselves and transforming behavior based upon our findings. This takes a lot of courage and bravery to face self, yet it is the most rewarding. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. That's something that is really difficult and we're not accustomed to. There's a term, or a phrase that we like to say in our community. Keep it 100. Keep it real. Let's keep it real. But I find that most of us have no idea what that actually means. Keeping it real, keeping it honest. Because keeping it real and keeping it honest is painful. It is difficult because we have been trained in conditions to lie, especially to ourselves, to lie to ourselves. That's why when you're in a revolutionary organization, there's some things that you're taught. You're taught to be able to accept criticism and self-criticism. You're taught to understand how to give constructive criticism. You're taught how to have reflection, to give self-criticism, to analyze yourself. You're taught not to practice liberalism. Do y'all know what liberalism is? Liberalism means letting stuff go, not saying things, letting things go unchecked. That's what liberalism means. See somebody screwing up, I ain't gonna say nothing, I'm just gonna let it go. So you're practiced to doing these things so you can eliminate lying to yourself, lying to your organization, because see, once you're honest with yourself, that's the first step of healing. You got a drinking problem, you ain't never gonna deal with that drinking problem until you admit you got a drinking problem. Never. And it's so easy to make excuses. Oh, I did this because of this. I did this because of this. I had to do this. I had to do that. See, that ain't keeping it real. That's not keeping it 100. That's lying to yourself. So you will avoid the painful reality of your shortcomings. Because you don't want to deal with it. You don't want to deal with the reality that you're not perfect. There are things that we need to work on. And unfortunately, there's a lot of things that we need to work on that we're not even realizing. We're not conscious of it. And it goes back to that trauma that we're talking about. Because a lot of trauma, you don't realize it. You don't realize it. Just something happens. Something happens, and you snap, you go off. In your mind, in your heart, you are completely justified because that person did something that they had no business doing. But you don't realize, what you're not realizing is that you went off because you were triggered. A past trauma that you experienced reemerged. Something somebody did reminded you of something that traumatized you in the past. It just reminded you of it. Because like I said before, when you are traumatized, your mind records that. Whatever it is, you're in a shootout, boom, 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 boom. Your mind basically says something just happened that will threaten your survival. So your mind remembers everything about it. What was going on, what everything looked like, what everything felt like, how cold it was, what everything smelled like. It remembers everything because your mind is trying to prep you and put you in a better situation to survive things in the future. So after all of that is gone away and you thinking you're good, you in a situation and something reminds you, something happens that reminds you of that trauma. You might not even be aware of it, but your mind knows because it's recorded in there. When that trauma emerges, whether you are conscious of it or not, most of the time we're not conscious of it. It triggers a fight or flight response. It triggers that response. We just fly off the deep end. We panic, we get upset, we get mad, we got to lash out. But see, in our head, hey, I was completely justified. Because you're not realizing, you don't understand that you are responding to a trauma that you don't even know exists. Tell you how deep trauma can get. A lot of times, and this has happened to a lot of us. A lot of times when we're babies, just babies, we might be sitting on the bed and fall off the bed. Boom, little baby hit the floor, fall off the bed. Y'all know what happened. You know, whether it should happen or, it's not, it happens. Well, as a baby, sometimes the experience of falling out of the bed, hitting the floor, is such a traumatic experience. It feels like we're gonna die as a baby. It scares us so much. We cry and we just know that that's it. It's gone. It's over for us. And that's a trauma that we suffer as a baby. And our brain records that. You get older, you don't even remember it. You don't remember being a baby. But you get older, for some reason, you don't even know why, but you're afraid of heights. Whenever you get too high, you just freeze, you panic, you about to lose your mind. Because when you were a little bitty baby, you fell off the bed and your brain recorded everything about that situation. Your brain recorded, I was up high and I fell and I hurt myself and I almost died. So the next time you're in a situation where you're up high, that trigger, that trauma is triggered. And your brain tells you, get out of that situation by any and all means. And you panic, you go into a fight or flight response, and you just fly off the deep end. That's how powerful that is. We're responding to things that we're not even aware of. There's something in therapy called mindfulness, being mindful. It's a very important technique. Very important, just understanding that. What that means is just becoming aware of everything, of all your thoughts, of your feelings, of everything that's going on with you. Really important to do this, and it could solve a lot. It could help you. It will change your life, really. And one technique about it, and this is very abbreviated because it's a long, body of information and knowledge and techniques and things to go into it. But I'm trying to simplify it. One technique to help you out with that is when you find yourself getting upset, triggered, or whatever the case may be, and there are a million different triggers. Going by the snack machine, trigger a thought of, I need to get me a snack. Need to give me and you're wondering why you can't lose weight. You not even realize you're being triggered to go eat. A lot of times you get in a stressful situation, that's a trigger to go eat because we're stressful eaters. But whatever it is, you become aware of it. So when something, you have an urge or you ready to lash out, you get angry, you stop for just a second. You say, what just happened? I got mad. Okay, why did I get mad? I got mad because they said something to me. Okay, why did that make you mad? Because I felt it was disrespectful. Okay, why do I feel it was disrespectful? Because of the way they said it. Okay, why? What about the way they said it made it disrespectful to you? You just keep asking yourself questions. And you get deeper and deeper of why you feel the way you feel. See, and when you do that, when you do this, it makes you aware of what's actually going on. And the more questions, the more in depth you get into questioning whatever triggered you, the more you actually learn about what's actually going on. Because you can very easily come to the conclusion of, you know what? They actually didn't say anything wrong. They actually didn't, it actually wasn't what I thought it was. It's just becoming aware of these things. Very effective technique. It will change your life. It can change your life. That's not the only one. There's a million of them. And trust, I don't even, I'm not happy that I even know this. I'm happy that I know it, but I'm not happy why, because knowing this, learning this is the result of a lot of trauma and a lot of me having to deal with trauma. And I have to say, yo, I got to figure out a way to deal with certain things. But man, let me get to some of these comments. Think we having a therapy session tonight. Sister Free, how you doing, Queen? It is so good to see you, and I heard you coming back to Memphis. So when you get here, we gonna do it up, have a good old time. Looking forward to seeing you again, Queen. You said, I'm feeling you, brother, because we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and hold our own self accountable. No doubt, no doubt. Definitely, definitely feel you for feeling me. So thank you. What you said, lies, facts. Not sure what we was talking about at the time when you wrote that. But since you ended it with fact, word. Let me see. John Ricky Sparks. Can I see say your real name on here, brother? Or do we have to go by this alias? Because I know who you really are, Mr. Sparks. You ain't Iron Man. You see, another open secret is that many public laws are unconstitutional, but who reads the Constitution? Good question. I mean, good observation. Yeah, definitely good observation. It's a free yay. He said, when you say something to a loved one, you just might get cussed out. And I'll say that with your facts. Facts, definitely. And that's all that is just, it's trauma. Just trauma. That's all. That's what it is. And we don't understand that, and we're not aware of it. And it is devastating to us. Just not being aware of certain things is so devastating to us. Like I said, once you learn about how the human mind works, how our fight and flight response work, and how we respond to trauma, and then you look out in our community, we look at our community different. We stop looking at us and looking down on our community saying, oh, we just crazy, out of control. We just so low. What's wrong with us? We're hurt. That's what's wrong with us. We're hurt. We're traumatized. We're dealing with some shit. And we've been dealing with shit for over 400 years. We got a 400-year weight on our shoulders that's weighing us down. And we got to release it, y'all. We got to release it. See, you're saying, yes. Free. I see you've been feeling me. I guess that's that Gemini thing, You see, excellent point. Mindfulness helps us to let things go in that don't serve us. Man, you're right about that. You're so right about that. You should. I mean, look. Just tell you this story. Because I mean, we hold on to things that we don't even realize why we're holding on to it. There's a brother who was telling me. He told me the story about, a true story about his family. He's like, they used to eat these smoked these, I guess, these sausages, Polish, or whatever you call them. Them nasty stuff that's really bad for you. But anyway, they used to eat them. I guess they still do. But he was telling me that, what they would do is when they would buy them, they would always cut the edges off and then cook them, or however they did, boil them, whatever they did to them. And one day he just asked the question. He's like, no, why do we do that? Why do we cut these edges off? And his wife or whoever was like, I don't know. I mean, just, that's the way I was taught to do it. And the wife asked the mom, said, hey, why do we cut the edges off? And the mom said, I don't know. It's just, that's the way we was taught to do it. So he asked the grandmother. Says, oh, like, so why do we do? Why do we cut the edges off of these sausages when we cook them? And the grandmother said, well, I don't know why y'all do it, but when I was young and I was growing up, we had these little bitty pots, and the sausage would not fit into the pan, so we had to cut the edges off in order to make the sausage fit into the pan. That's why we doing it, but I don't know why the hell y'all doing it. And my whole point of that story is, his point, which he told me, is like, we hold on to shit and we don't even know why we hold on to it. We're holding on to things right now, and we have no idea of why we're holding on to it. There's some things that happened in our past, things that have happened before we were even born, that we have inherited, and we're holding on to that baggage, and it's affecting us in our day-to-day lives, passing down generational trauma, generational curses. And at some point, we got to break that cycle. We got to break that cycle of self-destruction, that cycle of self-hate. We got to break it. So you said something beautiful. You said, once we become aware of who we are, then we have to engage in that process of healing. And it goes back to everything we always talk about collectively, how we have to work on creating institutions that we control. Because if we have an educational system where we're sending our children to schools that are indoctrinating them in self-hate and things that are destructive for us mentally, then we're continuing to pass on these generational curses. So we have to create the type of institutions that are gonna build us up mentally, build us up intellectually, that's gonna indoctrinate us with the mentality of liberation, of nation building. Because like we always say, whether you like it or not, you will be involved in nation building. The question is, what nation do you want to build? Are we going to continue to build a nation that oppresses us, that brutalizes us, that exploits us? Or are we going to engage in the type of nation building that is going to produce the type of institutions and systems that's going to build us up, that's going to leave a legacy that is more than just a slave legacy for our children and our grandchildren? It's up to us, y'all. But it ain't something that's going to abracadabra happen. We ain't going to, I don't care how hard you pray to white Jesus, that ain't going to get it done. We got to do more than that. I mean, you can pray. I ain't saying don't pray. Please pray. But after you get finished praying, we got to do work. We got to do work. Praying alone ain't going to get it. I'm sorry. That might offend some people, but I don't care. What's up, brother? Awa Bantum #2. Salutation from Jacksonville, Florida, King. What's up, brother? Good to hear from you. But yeah, I guess we had a decent conversation, being that I'm by myself and I'm just talking to my friends down here, my comrades down in internet world on the NABA Broadcast Association. You're listening to the NABA, New African Broadcast Association, where we entertain, educate, and elevate. NABA. Yeah, make sure y'all check out the rest of our shows tomorrow. Hopefully, we're gonna have the Truth and Power show on. Hopefully, I haven't talked to Melly Queen. I know, she's still recovering from Nation Day, man. We do Nation Day. We gotta have vacation, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. But hopefully Melly Queen will be back on. If not, we would definitely be on this Sunday at the Voices of New Africa. And we would definitely be on Monday with the New African Perspectives. And I'm pretty sure them queens gonna be on Tuesday with the Foundation of the Nation. I hope y'all checked out Foundation of the Nation. If y'all haven't, you could just, it's probably whatever page you're looking on. I'm pretty sure it's going to be posted on there. All our stuff is going to be posted on there. So, including our YouTube channels. So that's what it is, But I've been on for about an hour and a half. And like I said, I didn't expect to be on this long because I didn't have my comrade with me. But yeah, I really enjoyed, brother John Ricky Sparks, Iron Man. You said women control the culture. New African women control the culture. That was the topic. Yeah, you said it was excellent. So yeah, okay. So I'm on Ayo. They said your program this week was excellent. Of course it was. It's always excellent. But I'm about to get out of here. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thank y'all so very much. Thank you for conversing with me. Thank you for not letting this hour and a half be something that's just lonely and me just talking to myself. That's bad for my self-esteem. We've been talking about mental health. I got to keep myself in a strong state of mind. You're welcome, Sister Sa. But yeah, man, let me go and get out of here. Maybe I'll look at the basketball game. Who knows? Oh man, with all the things that I'm into, everything that I got to take care of and I have to do, man, I do not have time to be looking at no basketball game. We trying to build a nation. But anyway, this is Conversations Between Comrades. Hopefully my comrade Atiba will be back soon because I know y'all miss him. Y'all be getting tired of me up there talking to y'all by yourself. I'll probably have a few more guests because I met so many beautiful people who are doing beautiful things as far as creating their own schools, institutions, and other things. And man, so it's a lot of beautiful things this going on, and we will continue to bring these words into action. We ain't just talking about, what we're going to be doing. We got to be about it. And we are. Things are happening. Things are going on. So I'm going to leave y'all with that. And I love y'all. See y'all again next week. See you tomorrow on the Melly Queen Show on the Truth and Power Corner. See you Sunday, Voices of New Africa, and all of that good stuff. And y'all keep leaving comments and stuff. You said peace to the gods and earth, brother. Or you just said peace to the gods, brother. What about the earth? What about the earth? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, bless up, brother. Thank you, Queen. But I'm gonna leave y'all with free the land, free the land, free the land.
America, full of promises. Time to cash them in. You run from it quick. You never keep your word. I learned from it quick. You keep abusing me. You dumb. Europeans murdered 98% of the indigenous population right here in Turtle Island in order to steal the land. An entire nation of African people were captured and forced into a brutal system of chattel slavery just so they could work and cultivate the land. All wars are fought over land. Not over terrorism, not over religion, not even to win the hearts and minds of the people, but for the actual land and the resources within the land. So it is safe to say that land is the foundation to all freedom. So if we truly want to be free, then our struggle is for land. Free the land.